going up to Westchester area. We're going to talk to Joe at Roam. We are going to talk about Parkour, ROAMFurther.com. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pete. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So you partnered up with one of my ex cohorts, colleagues at Sagen, Scott Kaplan. So give him a shout out to being now officially part of the Halo sector. That he helped me launch our practice back at Sagen back in the day. So talk a little bit about your background, how you and Scott met up to become partners here, and what the mission is.
Sure thing. So my background, I went to school for nutrition and dietetics. That's my official background. Parkour I've been doing since 2004. I've been coaching professionally since 2011. Parkour wasn't necessarily a career path or original career path in mind. It's just kind of how it worked out. Since I've been coaching since 2011, recognized that this is the path that I wanted to continue forward with. I used to coach and run a program that I started in Fairfield, Connecticut. And that started to kind of fall through just because it wasn't a program that had the growth potential that I was thinking of. So I kind of had to start from scratch. And that's a whole long story. The short story, though, is that it took over 5.5 years before we got open. And in that process, I met Scott. And to be honest, it was kind of by accident. So I was speaking to a few different people who could help with funding. I was writing a business plan on my own, coming up with, the concept as a whole, sharing that with people. I was looking for spaces in the area. And that's actually how I met Scott. I was in a spot where, kind of skipping ahead, but it was a tough spot. I didn't have anyone involved at all for funding at this point, but I kept going, was still looking for locations, really just kept my eyes on the goal. And I met him through the broker. So my broker was actually his brother was Scott's broker when Scott was interested in trying to open up another form of business that was similar in the entertainment industry, so to speak, right? Like say entertainment places for kids, like trampoline park style. So, I met him by accident and we got to meet. Scott was open to, meeting me after hearing about my concept. And we really just got together, expedited a relationship, learned about our backgrounds and how we connected and how we were different in a positive way that would allow us to kind of balance out our specialties.
Gotcha. So, for the people here that don't know the intricacies of parkour, you talk about it as a program, as a modality, and then what sports that people know of and have seen that lends itself to, the basics of the foundation of parkour, whether that's, Ninja Warrior, or whether that's some of these tag events that I see on ESPN late at night. Talk about where this is infused.
Yeah, for sure. So, some people know what parkour is. Some people have no idea still, even though it's been around for a little bit. And there's people in between where they have a certain perception of what parkour is. I like to simplify it and relate it to martial arts, where it is a lifestyle, it is a discipline. There is an artistic element to it as well, where martial arts, you could be learning skills that are useful, but then there's also some things that are kind of, practicing the craft, but maybe it's more like just really trying to get good at a movement, no matter like how useful that's going to be. Maybe it still just looks pretty, like when you're moving in martial arts traditionally. So, relating it to martial arts in the sense that we are thoughtful about how we move. A lot of people think parkour kind of relates a little bit more to, say, skateboarding and it's just taking risks and whatever happens, happens. There's more to it than that in skateboarding itself. But parkour, I say, we have a very mindful approach towards how we move, but the high level, high risk kind of situations that you see promoted is what gathers all the attention, and, attention sells as well too. So that's like a real good gist. So instead of fighting in self-defense, it's obstacle-based training. And that's at its basis.
Got it. When you take a look at some of the kids and maybe talk about the age groups that are your largest, what kind of change do you see in them physically, confidence wise, achieving their own expectations? Talk about the development of of a kid or a teen that goes through your programming?
Sure. Yeah, we start as young as 9 months old. We've had an
Well,
8 month old in the program. Yeah, we start very young, and that's fairly unique to us. I know not many programs offer something for that young, and if it is, it's just a space to be, right? So our space is built for everyone, and the way we utilize it is very specific to the age group and ability. So there's really something for everyone. And some of the fun stories that we hear from parents, a lot of kids have a different background in the older ages. For example, we have a student whose main sport is soccer, and he was with us all throughout the summer doing camp and some classes. And the parents got feedback from the other teammates in the fall, and they're like, what has he been doing all summer? And it's parkour. And the main thing there is that what they recognize is body awareness, right? You're exploding and your movements in parkour, that really translates well into things like soccer, even football. There's just like, full force on whatever you're doing on the field. Basketball as well, too. We have some kids that snowboard and ski, and we had this similar comments where instead of like, what are they doing? Your kids fall different than our kids. That was an interesting one to hear too, because there's an awareness of how to land and to roll. Falling is a part of it. You have to learn through failure and what you're doing in parkour, but there's a way to fall well. So when you're out on the mountain, you fall, there's a way to turn your body, to roll, come back up. And that was seen too. And going back to the little ones real quick, it's really child development through a parkour eye. We know how people can move. And so, I have 3 children of my own. They're all very young. 4.5 is the oldest, 2.5, and 7 months old. So, I've seen child development, at a personal level, but also with that parkour eye with the students that we've worked with over the past 2 years in our space. And, we have some value behind that movement in parkour that we could share even at a young age.
so talk about the strategic decision to put the first location inside of the Grand Prix Racing Family Entertainment Center and not look for your own, studio, in a strip mall or,
Sure.
an old fitness center, and then, redeploying that. And tell us what some of the benefits have been to that.
For sure. So definitely not 100% strategy, like our strategic decision to be inside of Grand Prix. It was an element that we had to really think about when it was offered. So we found that complex, knowing that they had vacant space within that complex as a whole, but it was about half the width of the space that we're in now. It wasn't suitable, but we really, really like the area. We like the demographic. We like the fact that there's ample parking. People are used to flocking to Mount Kisco for a lot of different things in the surrounding area. So it was very ideal in almost every sense, except for being inside of a facility. So the benefits of that is that Grand Prix is well known. A lot of kids go there often, usually more often on the weekend than they do during the week. It's entertainment facilities, not thriving necessarily in after school hours compared to on the weekend. But there's a lot of consistent exposure up until this day. There's still people who are like, oh, I never heard about you. And they're learning about us through coming in through Grand Prix. So great exposure. Some of the downsides are the fact that we are sharing an entrance to a space that is well known. So sometimes it could be a little bit difficult to be noticeable or have a presence of a new business when you are sharing an entrance. So we're always thinking about that, and we've made some changes over time to improve that, physical awareness, beyond the digital, awareness that we do as well.
Got it. And maybe you could give some insight into other entrepreneurs that may be thinking about a host, or a sublease or a partitioned area. Are there any things that you put in place up front or that you're trying to put in place, whether it's, co-marketing or, sharing lead lists or uh, doing emails, that promote both of the brands? Or did you come up with any kind of economic structure where the Grand Prix benefits from, your growth? How did you structure that without giving us all the details?
Yeah,
What are
sure.
some of the high level things that you benefited from or that you wish you maybe put in there?
Yeah, what naturally came to mind to you is definitely some good points already. The marketing element that was a part of the plan, that Grand Prix had a big email list to kind of shout out that we are there. You also want to understand what is that business that you're tying into and how much does it relate to your business, not necessarily competitively, but, to benefit you guys where it's like kind of a good crossover. They don't offer classes in the way that we do. It's more entertainment facilities are more like drop in, open use, kind of do your own thing. But if you wanted to add a little bit more value where there's a coach led experience, that's what we offer. And so there's a nice tie into that, where we differ. But definitely having good communication with them, recognizing, do they seem like they are interested in helping out? It would be to their benefit because, you are a subtenant. And we have a good relationship in that sense. They want to talk about us. They're very comfortable being open minded of us adding extra signage and think about how the flow works of people getting to our space. That is very important. So think about it in any way that you can in advance so that you could feel confident in case something comes up that you didn't plan for or anticipate, such as people coming into us that say, is there a back entrance? Sometimes that does happen, but we're very much a calm, relaxing type of vibe within our space. And sometimes it's very busy on the weekends, lights on, arcade games. And sometimes people are like, I'm not coming for that and I'm coming for the relaxing vibe. And they wish they didn't have to go through that. But usually that's just an initial, beginning part of it. But that wasn't necessarily something we completely foresaw being a, consistent thing that we would hear.
Understood. So give us the DNA behind the name Roam Further. What does that mean to you, and how do you articulate that to the market?
Sure. So parkour in general is the root of our offering, but it's not rooted in the sense where everything is pure parkour. There's other elements of movement that parkour comes from. But a big piece of it that connects with the business is to the idea to explore. But there's a difference between exploring and roaming. And the fact that you could be open to just kind of exploring without a specific goal, be open minded, roam through the world, roam through wherever you are, and be open to what you experience. So to roam further means that there is no end. There's always something more to gain through experience. And so that's a strong connection with parkour, but also like our mindset and our values. So that's the root of the name in the most basic form.
Got it. And when you're marketing this, obviously you got some great testimonials on, kids that are in sports and they're bettering their skill set and their confidence level and their strength. What have you done on the programming side, or what do you intend to maybe do on the programming side to make it sports specific, or say, here's the benefits of the core program, and then try and kind of touch a lot of different points of what people are doing, that they're aspirational. They're trying to
Yeah.
make a JV team or a varsity team. How do you market that? And how difficult is it, just given the noise in the Westchester area? There's plenty of places to, do athletics.
Yeah. Definitely, there's a time factor to that too, right? We're trying to develop relationships with schools, and then of course teams in general. The more relationships you could build, the easier it is to kind of market in that sense, and also just to have that kind of awareness through others and their experiences. Now, we could put it on our website, in certain ways. We even have cross training. There's an element, you spoke of Ninja Warrior before. I didn't go into too much depth there, but, parkour existed before the TV show American Ninja Warrior. But in the early days, a lot of parkour athletes were the thriving athletes on the show. And they decided to specialize in Ninja Warrior training. So parkour can be a route to a lot of different sports. And then you could recognize the elements that parkour trains and then maybe specialize in that more. Say Ninja Warrior, a lot of upper body and finger strength, right? You might only need so much finger strength to be a parkour athlete in general, but to succeed in American Ninja Warrior, you really need to be working on that element. And that's a very, simplified version of like how I could speak to one of the specializations in Ninja Warrior. But so we do that in that sense too, to get people to understand some of the benefits if we're not teaching you specifically for Ninja Warrior, but we could also fill into the gaps of some of the more specialized parkour skills that will apply there. And then, like we talked about before, with soccer, snowboarding, skiing, basketball as well too. That's more relationships. There's definitely room for us to kind of now that we've been getting a lot of that feedback, to kind of hyper focus and add some of that. That's actually on our list too. We've been building up our website over time to add in more information of what we've been experiencing that we talk about in-house, but maybe not have online. So that's actually on our list to express deeper.
Got it. So talk about the model. Do you have a membership model, and do you have kids coming a certain amount of days per week to actually get the results that you desire for them to get? I'm assuming this isn't something you do, 5 or 6 days a week, like a soul cycle class, but you talk about how many days per week is kind of ideal for a teen or for a younger kid, and how do you price that, or how do you sell that
Yeah.
to their parents?
Yeah, so mostly we are session based for the youth program. We have an adult program too. It's smaller than our youth program. And we could go into more depth of what we do for adult programs and events as well. But for the youth program, it's 8-week sessions within the school year. So usually it's helpful for parents to be thinking in that manner and not to necessarily have the pressure of, like, say, long-term membership, since there's a smaller percentage, say, of people who choose parkour or any sport as their one true activity. So there is an element of having seasonality for some customers. There's some people who are staying with us all the time, and the only time that they're, taking a break is maybe they're going on vacation and it's not mixing in. But then we also have drop-ins too, where people are using some scheduled drop-ins in between those breaks in the session. So we price it out that way, and we have a nice system that allows us to not necessarily go the auto charge method. We stay away from that in the membership based system just because there's a lot of manual activity in this type of industry where we have a high level of service and communication with our customers where they could facilitate things on their own. But it's often that I've experienced in the past, even before opening Rome, how often there's communication about, hey, cancel, or I didn't want to auto enroll. I didn't know I wanted to auto enroll. So we found that, having that business sense of keeping it on all the time would devalue the relationship. And then we'd also have to do more manual work to do either refunds or cancel or decide to take that, traditional approach that maybe some other fitness facilities that are very high volume, maybe they don't have that same service base. We have a small, we're close to the families. So we have a lot of interactions every day, and we don't necessarily want to be like, hey, you didn't let us know that you canceled in 30 days. So it's like, you're just going to have to be charged again and wait it out. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Several years ago, we worked on a strategic consulting for a ninja uh, indoor ninja park, and the part that intrigued me about their business model is that all the birthday parties that they did, basically all the kids that came to the birthday party had to have their parents sign a waiver, which
Yep.
gave their email address and their contact info through the release, which turned into basically free leads or negative customer acquisition costs or member acquisition costs. What's the how many birthday parties you're doing? Is that a big part of
Yeah.
the business model? And how does that kind of turn on the fuse for getting new kids to become members?
Yeah, definitely. Birthday party is a big part of our business. Saturdays and Sundays in particular. We do offer it on Friday nights as well. We probably don't do as many birthday parties as some of the entertainment based businesses that could also offer it all throughout the week. We find the balance of, still offering classes and having that relationship with people long term, versus, say, in some entertainment facilities that don't offer the classes, so they could kind of offer it multiple things going on at the same time. Right now, the parties that we do are exclusive use to our space. So it is a specialized form of a birthday party. It's all coach led, very little thinking for the parents. And that's what's kind of one of our specialties, is the fact that we're planning it based on the age group, the size, and the time that they choose. And with our specialty coffee bar built into our front desk area as well, that's another element of the business, becomes an adult social where the parents kind of stay instead of drop off. They hang out, and it feels like they're going to a place for them, not just for their kids. That has an element in our parties and for our classes and camp as well, where sometimes we have camp and parents just station up with their laptop and get work done in the same place, look up when they want to see their kids. So, but yeah, birthday parties, big part of it.
Great. And how much do you see, parents actually working out with their kids on the course versus, waiting for them to finish like you usually see ninja areas where, the parents are kind of chit chatting and looking at their watch or, bringing their laptop, is there is it becoming more like pickleball where, everyone should be on the course or everyone should be uh, participating? How have you seen that evolve?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. There's a lot of opportunity for kids and parents to do it together. We're planning to do some more events that are more specific to that as kind of a way for a lot of our parents to get a chance to experience that and see how much of an interest it would be to have that a part of, say, the after school hour classes, because there is an element too where parents are looking for something for their kids to do, maybe drop off and get some things done. So there's got to be that balance as well. So events are kind of like that nice middle ground where it allows an opportunity for that gathering. We see the most interest for the little ones, and we have our Little Roamers and Me program where it's 9 months to 3 years old. Sometimes it goes up till 4, where parents and kids are involved in the space together. The activity is still more focused towards the kids, but it does require some involvement from the parents. And we have a lot of thoughts in the background of how we could find the balance of parents and kids doing it together, because there is a tricky side to where the kids just kind of want to take control and like, hey, watch me do this, watch me do that.
Right.
And it becomes more of like a spectating element for the parents. And we have some ideas of how it could be beneficial to everyone.
And then my last question is, or a comment, when I'm on your website, you call it Roam Further and you added the word athletics, which I think is very
Yes.
smart. Did that happen at inception or did that evolve over time to make it more understood that, this is a sport and this is not necessarily just a program?
Sure. Yeah, no, from the beginning. So I didn't want to brand the business purely as parkour in the name, because even though it's the root, it is not the only element. And there are a lot of people who view parkour in a particular way and they have their understanding of what it is. So we're hoping that people kind of come in and experience. And we've had a lot of positive experience towards like people like, I didn't really know what parkour was, or this isn't what I thought it was. And we have our own style, just like any other facility or martial arts place. Not everyone's going to be doing it in the same way, and we have our method. So the name was a big, part of the choice of how we want to make people feel about what we do.
Awesome. So, in closing here, any quotes that you live by, or any tagline that you like to leave the kids with, when they're leaving
Sure.
the location?
Yeah. In general, we have a lot of conversations with the kids, and we try to, work with them to them as an individual within a group setting. We don't treat everyone the same. That is one of the unique elements of what we do, and try to build those relationships for long term. Yesterday, I actually had, 4 of our coaches were all students of mine in the past. So I've known some of them since they were 10, 11 years old. So there's a whole community element to this too. It never ends. And a quote that I like to say is, experience is nothing without change. And it hits people right away, sometimes, others not. But what I mean by that is, you could have 30 years of experience, but if you haven't been changing throughout that process and improving what you do and who you are, that experience doesn't mean much at all. So, yeah.
It's great. Well, we say experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. I think I like yours better.
Thank you.
Well, good stuff, man. Congrats on the business, and it seems like you got all the right pieces in the right place. So keep crushing that, and then once you figure out the full unit economics and special sauce, then go find next location and keep us posted.
Yeah, that's next. That's next up for this year. Thinking about that. So thank you very much. Really appreciate
Awesome.
being on.
You got it, bud.